The Moscow Metro was the first and largest subway system in the Soviet Union, with over 200 stations, each designed in a unique architectural style. It was also renowned for its safety. Every day, hundreds of thousands of Soviet citizens descended into the underground to avoid surface traffic and reach their destinations efficiently. In the early 1980s, Carol Bellamy, then president of the New York City Council, visited Moscow's subway system. She was astonished by the clean platforms, the absence of graffiti, and the overall sense of order and security. But what she didn't know was that just prior to her arrival in February 1982, a tragic disaster had occurred at Aviamotornaya station. At around 5 p.m., during the evening rush, passenger volumes surged. In an attempt to ease congestion, Metro staff activated an additional escalator. It quickly filled with people, and a minor crush formed. This was considered routine during peak hours, and staff weren't overly concerned. But within minutes, the situation spiraled into horror. Suddenly, the escalator's main drive motor failed due to a tripping mechanism, and the regular brake malfunctioned. The moving stairs began accelerating downhill with dozens of passengers still aboard. A station supervisor tried to engage the emergency brake, but due to an improbable technical failure, it didn't work. What followed was a scene of chaos. The escalator accelerated so rapidly that its support chain snapped. People lost their balance, tumbled down the steel steps, and crashed into those already injured at the bottom. Some had limbs caught in the comb plates. The entire lower section of the escalator was awash in blood. With a combined weight of approximately 12 tons, the crowd collapsed into a heap at the base. Some tried to climb back up against the descent, but were knocked down by the human avalanche. The escalator's safety rails bent under the pressure, and hands and feet got stuck in the narrow gaps between the treads and side panels. The sound of screeching metal, coupled with panicked screams, turned the once orderly station into a scene from a nightmare. A few attempted to leap onto the balustrades, but the plastic structures shattered under their weight, causing more injuries. The carnage stopped only after Metro staff reached the machine room and shut down the power. Incoming trains halted. Passengers stepping off were met with a gruesome sight. Some fainted from the shock. Nearly 40 minutes passed before Metro authorities closed the station and rerouted trains without stopping at Aviamotornaya. Ambulances began arriving during this time. According to doctors on the scene, the aftermath resembled a war zone. The floor was soaked with blood, and medical staff slipped as they loaded both victims and corpses onto stretchers. Some injured passengers were trapped inside the escalator's mechanisms and had to be freed by rescue crews using blowtorches. The most severely wounded were taken directly to intensive care. Everyone had been removed. Janitors arrived to cover the blood with sawdust and clean up the evidence. Later, a brief note appeared on the back pages of the evening Moscow newspaper, stating only that on February 17, 1982, at Aviamotornaya station on the Kalininskaya line, an escalator incident occurred. There were injuries among passengers. The cause is under investigation. No further official coverage followed. This silence led to widespread speculation and urban legends among Muscovites. Eyewitnesses, or those claiming to be, described people falling onto exposed gears and being torn apart. Western media, particularly Voice of America and Radio Free Europe, seized on the incident. broadcasting emotional reports and accusing the Soviet system of grinding its own people. The Soviet press, by contrast, downplayed the event. No details about fatalities or injuries were released. Institutions that lost employees in the tragedy were forbidden to speak publicly. Emergency workers and doctors involved were instructed to remain silent. In the aftermath, ridership dropped sharply as fear spread. An internal investigation revealed the root of the tragedy. 4 months before the incident, new braking systems had been installed on Aviamotornaya's escalators. These systems required different calibration, but the maintenance worker, unaware of the changes, adjusted them using outdated methods. As a result, the brakes operated in emergency mode for 120 days. When finally needed, they failed. The actual failure began with a broken step that jammed the comb plate, triggering an automatic motor shutdown. 9 months later, in a closed Supreme Court session, a special commission finally disclosed the real cause and casualties. 8 people had died, 30 were seriously injured, many permanently disabled. Faced with a difficult choice, Metro officials opted not to shut down 20 stations for inspections, fearing public backlash. Instead, only Aviamotornaya was closed temporarily. Repair crews of 70 worked around the clock for weeks to inspect, reinforce steps, update brakes, and replace drive shafts across the network. It wasn't until 1992, after the fall of the Soviet Union, that journalists uncovered the full story and brought the tragedy to light.